Mhm.
Right.
Thanks, Harris.
Thank you.
All right, who would like to kick off?
I can kick us off. I'm Kenrick. I live in New England. You can see in the background, New Hampshire, and I live just outside of Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I'm really excited to be representing the community advisors. And my own career has been in science and engineering, so I write a lot of proposals, review proposals, write papers, review papers. So I felt like this was a good role for me to contribute to the community, and looking forward to getting to know more of the community advisors and finding out how we can support them better. Allison, you want to go next?
Sure. So I am Allison Fromm. I'm representing the general ADA holders. So I do not have a technical background. I've worked in finance and accounting most of my career. So part of what attracted me to this role was the opportunity to perhaps represent those members of the community that aren't deeply engaged and don't have technical skills, and listen to what's drawing them in or what's preventing them from being more involved in the voting process and in the catalyst process. I'm really excited to think about how we reach the broad Cardano community, and actually even an even broader community, bring more people into Cardano, although all of that is probably a bit beyond the scope of what I can work on in the next months, but I'm excited to try.
That's great. I can go next. My name is Harris Warren. I'm with Input Output Global, and basically I've joined to be part of the circle to really help represent input from stakeholders within IOG. Input Output does have inputs that we're collecting for feedback and things like that, and I want to share that feedback directly with the circle, and we'll be doing some deep dives and understanding sort of the sentiment of what the community is feeling, some of the inputs, and how we can make things better and deliberate within the circle of actually taking that feedback and making things actionable, and finding ways to either provide that out to the community and have the community help to solve some of these specific issues that we're seeing and trends, maybe providing additional tools, and at some point in the future being in a place to have the Catalyst Circle help in decision making and overall governance at some point. And so this is sort of part of my contribution to the circle. I'm glad to be here. I come from the community, and I have been a fan of Cardano for some time. Was delighted to have an opportunity to join Input Output directly, and also to be able to help in making decisions, as we're sort of proceeding forward with Catalyst as a product manager for Catalyst itself. And so finding ways to engage the community and offer tools and support to make things happen. And I am, definitely coming from a background in technology, some science background. I've done a lot of different things, but, this is my dream opportunity to be here and to work with the community and help move Cardano forward, help move crypto forward, and help change the world. So I'm delighted to be here.
Awesome.
Mateus, do you want to go again? I don't know if we caught you in the recording.
Yeah, so I shared a little bit about me and how I ended up being the representative for the Cardano Foundation, but I'm involved in Cardano in a couple of other capacities. I also have a technical background. I'm a professional software engineer for over 2 decades now. Also, I'm a conflict resolution specialist. So originally as a peacekeeper, then studying things that actually work better than holding an assault rifle. And so I'm a certified mediator, I'm a facilitator, I do a lot of community work, and that ultimately also led to a recently funded Fund 6 proposal known as Win-Win Dispute Resolution. So I'm sure you'll hear a lot more about that. And currently I'm finishing up a master's in dispute resolution as well. I have this 40 to 60 pages I still need to write in like 2 weeks or something like that, but I always find more important things to do, including my Cardano work for my company that I just founded. I'm the CEO there. I work with former Circle members like Victor Corsino, who was the rep for the community advisors. He's our COO. Our CTO is Eli Selkin, the runner-up to Allison's vote for the general ADA holders. So I'm very privileged to be surrounded by capable and well-meaning people. And yeah, so I wear multiple hats. Again, technical, Plutus Pioneers, first cohort, Prism Pioneers. I've been involved in crypto since 2016, with Cardano since 2017, but really starting with Fund 3. So Allison, a Fund 0 member, for example, and Stephen also have seen a lot more, but started as a voter because as a non-US citizen, just a resident, I only pay taxes, but I cannot decide on any of that, where that money goes, at least indirectly. So I was super excited to, finally vote. And then of course, Candy showed me a few weeks ago that my vote doesn't count. So thanks a lot. But the truth
I
needs to
showed
be
you the
out there.
path to making your count vote. We got
Yeah.
to work on it.
Exactly, right? So I'm looking forward to various problem statements that are going to be present in the circle. Yeah, I think that's enough about me.
Wonderful.
Like 15 follow-up questions I want to ask you, but I'll save those until we hear from Raymond and Stephen.
Yeah.
Yeah, for an ad hoc after town hall, this is great. We have such great representation from the circle. So yeah, Stephen, you want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. I'm Stephen Whittenstall. I live in a small, damp, cold town in North Yorkshire, which is very atmospheric and not far away from where the Brontes were in Harworth. So I've been involved in Cardano Catalyst actually since March of this year, when I started off in NFT DAO. I've been involved in various projects, mostly to do with documentation, but also tracking and auditing and automation and tokenization design with Catalyst Swarm. I've been with Swarm since the beginning. I helped form Eastern Town Hall. I work regularly with Eastern Town Hall as well. Catalyst School, and probably lots of other things I can't quite remember, and I should probably give up. And my background is varied. Many years ago, I was a quality assurance manager of the investment bank in London, BNP Paribas, for a few years. Then I was a project manager briefly for IBM, and then moved into social enterprise for community projects, particularly the homeless, for many years, 5 to 10 years on that, and won some awards for social enterprise there, which has given me the inspiration for submitting the Homeless Hub proposal, which is actually now being run by a colleague of mine in quality assurance. Most recently, I've been in academia, and I've got a degree in philosophy, and I became interested in Catalyst from a kind of academic philosophical angle initially, and I'm interested particularly in distributed governance. And my main effort and emphasis in the community is to build an autonomous platforms so that we can transition away from IOG towards the community as the roadmap is planned with Voltaire. So that's kind of my emphasis. And I represent, I represent the Catalyst coordinators, but what's more often known as the funded cohort. And so I'm really interested to listen to their concerns and their experience, to provide reporting tools for them, auditability tools, and look at the constructive criticism to do with the experience of a funded cohort. And Raymond, I'd like to hear from you.
Oh, I'm surrounded by an amazing circle here. I'm Raymond Mata. I spend about 7 months of the year in Oregon and 5 months here in Hawaii. I'm here in Hawaii now. I have a technical background, about 22 years as an IT systems engineer and the owner for a small managed service provider here on the islands of Hawaii. I've been a stake pool operator since Shelley launched. I started in the ITN. I came in just the last few weeks of the ITN. My relationship with Cardano started in May, actually May 5th, I would say, of last year is when I officially started my relationship with Cardano. Ever since August of last year, after Charles announced the need for a trade association in the SPO community, I became one of 9 founding board members for SPO-related, which is a community elected organization of stake pool operators, essentially really gathering consensus about what the problems and needs are of the larger stake pool community and driving our ecosystem partners to make sure that their voices are heard and that the backbone for the network is never left out. So I'm really here to listen and understand more specifically how the stake pool operators are incentivized and can contribute and become part of the Catalyst ecosystem. Right, there's all these other things that are happening with stake pool operators in the network at large, but specifically my job is to really help plug the stake pool operator community into the Catalyst ecosystem and start aligning them, especially just now in this town hall. I saw we've got 350,000 ADA that is in the fund challenges for stake pool operators. That's incredible. And I know the large majority of them have no idea that that is there. So my job really is to help facilitate connection between that large community and what the Catalyst ecosystem is up to, and just really drive education and build some good problem sensing, so that stake pool operators, especially, I think the group of stake pool operators that are constantly grumbling and the most frustrated are the small stake pool operators that are struggling with stake, struggling to make a block, and struggling to have a sustainable business model. So I really are going to be paying a lot of attention to their input. I'm in not only SPO-related, but I'm in several private groups and other Telegram and Twitter groups and social circles, and constantly gathering feedback from SPOs, large, small, medium, all of them. So I feel like I have a really good sense for what their needs are collectively, and more specifically in the smaller groups. So really excited to be a part of this. I'm happy that I have Loris, the previous Catalyst Circle member, to help me. He's always there to support me. And I can see that we're building on a strong foundation here. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can do as a circle over the next 3 months.
Yeah, maybe we can open it up to questions that people have for the circle.
Yes, I would like to ask my first question, because I'm wondering why. I can maybe understand, but I'm still concerned if this makes sense, that the period you are in this role of a circle member is very short, isn't it? I think it's 2 months, or how long is it?
3
3
months.
months.
Yeah, it is
3
short. I
months.
agree.
And I just think you are from so different places, and there is so much to share at the beginning, that once you know each other and you know how things are going, then you already have to leave again. And I think this is not really good. I agree that you should not stay forever, but we are not in the East here, but still it would be good if you could stay a bit longer. Is there any idea to change this?
Yeah.
I think
Go
there
ahead.
was, I think there was some discussion at the last with the last circle about extending the term, but I think the idea is that this is still very much an experiment and a learning process, and so the idea of shorter terms was maybe a rapid innovation approach that tests something, see how it works, and then
Okay.
you have that possibility to adapt for the next round. I think the longer term plan would be to have longer terms. But I think, yeah, correct me if anyone else has a different understanding.
I think there was a debate So there was a debate in the previous circle. I know this because I used to be secretary for Circle Water for the last few meetings, and there was a feeling. I think the general feeling was that the 3 months terms should stay for the circle representatives, partly because it's not just about, yes, it's there's some kind of wastage, but there's also a kind of training element to it. So that's what circle members for, so that they we need, because Cardano and Catalyst is expanding so much, we need to train new representatives and leaders in the community as quickly as we can. And that was the consensus for Circle 1, but Circle 2, obviously, we might feel differently, because there is a point about that kind of wastage of, once we've got to know each other, all that time it takes to get to know each other and then become effective, and then you have to pass on everything to Circle version 3. So I'll be interested to hear what other people think about that.
Yeah, the other thing I'd like to add to that, just in the experience I've had so far, is the overlap, right? So the first generation Circle are overlapping with us. They're mentoring us. They're staying with us for at least a month. And I suspect over time, what's probably going to evolve organically is a larger family, a larger team of people who have been involved in this for a while, coming in, being mentors, being in the conversation, and being contributors also. So even though the front role might only be 3 months, there's a month overlap between previous roles, which helps keep the glue strong. And I think there's going to be momentum from those people who have made those contributions to stay in the community, because they created that momentum, right? So there's incentives now for them to stay participating within what's been created.
Okay, I'd like to ask just a second question. Now, you are discussing with each other, so you are knowing, you are kind of clue, but is there anything you can decide on, or what is your, I don't know, your impact on Catalyst and on whatever is the output of Catalyst?
Yeah, so the original vision was really to have Catalyst Circle be sort of a sensing group. So we can hear from all the different perspectives and all the different channels, from SPOs to the general voting population and other areas around the ecosystem, to make sure that we're, funneling that information, deliberating on that information, and then ideally, instigating others to take action on these general directions. There may be some element of decision making in the future, but as a circle and as a team, we get to sort of decide the function of what the circle is as an experiment, and what it evolves to, and how it translates into the next generation of governance for the next version 3 and beyond. And so this is some of the original intent of the experiment. And I think having kind of the fresh perspectives is also really good, to hear people within the community jump into the circle and then have that insight that they had from their own perspective is really great and enriching, I think, for the circle and governance in general.
To add to that, what Harris just said, so during Circle V1, right? Granted, people mostly still knew of each other, and they've been around the Cardano ecosystem long enough, and I think this is the same for version 2 members, right? Circle version 1, though, however, right, did not have the support for half of the time with the admin team. Also, version 1 suffered from the lack of participation from some entities or from some representatives. I think we're better set up for this version. And despite all the challenges in version 1, there were quite a few of initiatives coming out from the community, which the circle members captured, right? Going back to being this sensory array, and then discussed that, and ultimately passed solutions that were up for a vote. For example, the community advisors where I supported Victor Corsino, and Lucio, for example, was also essential in that role. And the support for Victor, we essentially the recent change in catalyst voting, or sorry, not in voting, but in the catalyst process of proposing and the CAs and who can be a proposer. Until recently, you could not be a community advisor and a proposer in the same fund. Now you can be that. You cannot be a CA and a proposer in this for a specific challenge, for the same challenge. But if you wanted to, for example, be a proposer in the DApp and integration challenge, well, you couldn't be a community advisor in that role, or a veteran community advisor neither. But you could, for example, if you had no proposal in the DeFi challenge, right? You can be a community advisor in that challenge. And things of that nature, which are really, really influential. And did we not have that new rule, we would have been in a lot of trouble with getting the proposals the necessary amount of reviews to at least get some idea, deliver some idea of the quality of a proposal to the voters. So it is very influential, and you can do a lot of things in 3 months.
To answer the specific supporter, there was in Circle version 1 went through what was called a problem sensing exercise in its first 2 months. And this is all documented in the Circle version 1 Gitbook. So different parts of Circle, including IOG, and as Matthias mentioned, the community advisors, stake pool operators, went off back to their communities and did some problem sensing. So tried to identify what was the most important problems, relevant problems to their communities, which they needed to address. That was then brought back to Circle, and I put on a Trello board, which I just posted a link there too. And the issues were moved subsequently to that. From about the 3rd or 4th meeting of Circle version 1, those problems were moved across the board, and some of them were progressed further than others. Like, for example, the community advisor issue of opening up community advisor resources so that we can meet the scaling of proposal assessments, that kind of thing. We've inherited that Trello board. So there's still problems on the board that Circle version 2 have to address. And we may also do problem sensing of our own, and potentially take on other decisions as well.
Pop-Tart, do you want to explain your perception of how that change affected the proposals and the reviewing of the proposals?
All right. Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Great, thanks.
So through the funds, each round, we've kind of added some things, changed some things. We made adjustments. In Fund 6, with the community advisors and I guess the veteran community advisors could also be proposers in more challenges. Now we definitely need community advisors and everything, but what happened in my experience as someone that's kind of maintaining the Project Catalyst Discord, where people come in that we share during the town halls, there was really no one there to help onboard these people. There were a few, but it was really overwhelming. And there were people coming into the channel asking, hey, what do I do? Can I get some help? Would somebody review my proposal? And I think that in itself created a lower quality of proposals and probably deferred or deterred some people from, becoming more involved. So
I want to try to understand what you're saying is that in the earlier rounds with the Discord channel, you could perceive how people who were trying to draft new proposals were getting support from the community. But with this change, it seemed that the proposers now were kind of doubling their responsibilities and maybe not having as much availability to help others getting new to the process. Is that what you're
Exactly. Yeah. A lot
describing?
of the community advisors and proposal mentors, you know, a lot of the people that have had 2 or 3 or 4 rounds experience, you know, not all of them were there for this round. And I mean, it does not take long at all to get overwhelmed with Catalyst.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true, because I can speak to that, because of this past round, I did do efforts on all 3, you know, writing proposals, reviewing proposals, and then reviewing reviewers. And I have to kind of think through how I'm going to budget my time and where to prioritize things, so that I think I understand a little what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm notoriously bad at managing time, so I'll go ahead and throw that disclaimer out there as well.
Well, thank you for sharing that perspective, and I'm not discounting your experience, not at all. It is your valid experience. There are other experiences as well, and I hope you shared your experience as well in the kind of the, what's the official term? I would say debriefing of the fund. I guess that's another. Thank you. The retrospective, absolutely. Right, and at the same time, I mean, it is an experiment, and I hear that your conclusion is that experiment might have failed. Not wanting to putting words in your mouth, but I'm also curious how else we could scale up. I know in the Community Advisors Telegram, there is one group particularly very in favor of actually excluding people in a way, or excluding proposals to even make it to the ballot, because there's so many of them, and community advisors have to go through all of them. And especially with the new incentive models, that added as well. So there's a lot of things that changed at the same time, right? So I'm curious what other factors might have contributed to the overall bad experience that you shared with us.
Raymond has to go soon, so can we direct questions to Raymond for the next 20 minutes or so?
Yeah, so if anyone has any questions related to being a stake pool operator or about that community or feedback, Raymond's representing that group. And
there's a question in chat for Jeremy. Well, Raymond's answered in chat. So
yeah, I'll answer.
Yeah, sorry, I preempted you then.
That's okay. Yeah, I'm getting the notice. I'm like, oh, I got to be out of here in 20 minutes. So what I'll be doing most likely, at the very least for starters, is using the Spocker platform that we already have, where we have weekly meetings where we take in SPOs every Saturday. We also have a board meeting, and then we have a weekly live stream as well, where we bring topics and then we let people come in and talk to us and ask us questions live. So I'll be doing more of that. You'll see me in that role more, and I'll be focusing more specifically, like I said before, on engaging the larger SPO community and really showing them what's happening in the Catalyst ecosystem and how much incentive there is for them to grow and collaborate within that space. That's my primary focus. And where can I find a meeting? I will provide a link for that here just in a moment. Any other questions?
yeah, Raymond, there's a couple of great challenges related to SPOs, related to business opportunities and also the concept of an independent SPO. I don't know what you would see as maybe some involvement in some of those specific challenges or cross collaboration. Any thoughts on your involvement in some of those pieces?
Oh yes, I already reached out to Heinz while just after he did his presentation. So I'm actually going to be meeting with him and having a Zoom session with him and picking his brain about that challenge and just really understanding actually first, what's the challenge all about? Where did it come from? What is it actually addressing? What is the scope? And then bringing that information out to the SPO community the best that I can. That's the very first thing I'm going to be doing. So yeah, absolutely. I was blown away by the introduction of those challenges. I can't believe there's that much money there for the SPO community. So when they get their hands on this, it's really going to be about also, like Danny was saying, you know, not just jumping in there and going crazy with all this garbage proposals, but bringing them in a way that shows them how to create quality proposals. So giving them and demonstrating, you know, what's already been done and what they did to get there and how to write a good proposal too. So there's quite a few channels and angles here that have to be worked for that to work. So I'm going to be hustling, especially where this is opening tomorrow. So I really want to make sure that the SPO community knows about this as much as possible and as quickly as possible. So I have a lot of work to do in the next 24 hours.
Yeah, I definitely think with SPO, you guys have already created an amazing community there is already, and expanding on that and opening it up to these other challenges and other interests. Yeah, I think it's fantastic. So definitely delighted to have you here on the circle, man.
All right, guys, I am just blown away and blessed and very grateful for what we have here. I'm feeling the energy and we're building the momentum. So thanks for having me. And, you know, if there's any other questions you want to ask, you can go into SPO.io. You can find me there. You can chat with me directly. It's probably a good place to start. And we can also do offline as well if necessary.
Awesome. Aloha.
Aloha, guys. Have a good one.
Cheers, man. Excellent. Any other questions from the folks here in the room?
If I still can, I don't know, Jeremy did not ask yet, or maybe he wants to. Otherwise, I would have a question which maybe is for Alison or for all of you. You see, I'm not deeply involved in specific action in Cardano. I've been reading about Cardano and thinking about Cardano since 2017. As I told you, as a mathematician, I was really convinced that this is a good path to take to get to a sound blockchain. And I even read some of the papers about Cardano from the community, and I can claim that I think I can understand most of the things more or less. But what really irritates me is the fact that it looks like Cardano is cutting the opinion of a lot of crypto people. There's just a big divide, and I hear a lot of bad things talking about Cardano, mostly not very sound and not really founded. And I don't want to discuss about what Cardano is doing on the crypto market, but I'm still astonished. Why is there so much stress about what Cardano is and not? Do you have any idea what is going on here?
I think that's a great question, because there is an awful lot of negative energy towards Cardano from the broader crypto community. I mean, living in the Zug is the crypto valley, you know, and I hear that all the time from people who have absolutely no idea of what's actually going on, but have very strong negative perceptions. And the truly astonishing thing for me is that my experience within the Cardano community, and I didn't really give my Cardano background, but I've been around Cardano for a couple of years now. My experience within the Cardano community is completely different from the perception that people have from the outside, both in terms of the substance and the character of the people and the quality of the projects and the intention and the vision and the ethics and the development. I mean, it's just that it's just a crazy disconnect between the perception from the outside and the reality from the inside. So I have two, completely personal, unscientific hypotheses for this. One, and I think Jory, if I'm saying your name correctly, is alluding to this. Yeah, it's because people are threatened. It's because I think Cardano is a pretty powerful vision for the future, and I think it threatens a lot of places in crypto that are not as well thought out and thoroughly constructed and deeply valued, and that aren't all of the things that Cardano is. And so I think people, out of fear and envy and insecurity, attack when they feel threatened. I also think that probably our leader, Charles Hoskinson, who I admire immensely, probably is a controversial figure. And I think that most people who have a big vision and who aren't afraid to stand on a stage and talk about their vision and have big personalities also can be a lightning rod for a lot of negative energy.
I think, I feel shielded from a lot of this because I don't sort of venture out onto social media and watch the carnage. But but I guess it's out there, and so maybe we're kind of sequestered in this community a little bit. But I'd like to, not to pun, but to circle back to what Quasar was saying about onboarding. And I heard what Matthias was saying, but I get a lot of people contacting me about feedback who are new to Catalyst. And I think to address that, we should prioritize new entrants to Catalyst and prioritize resources. So this is everyone in the IOG community. Secondly, we should listen to them. Okay, we should listen to them and ask them what their solutions are to the things that block them, to the things that frustrate them, and then not trying to rationalize ourselves what their criticisms are. Okay, and this is, I'm getting this from a lot of sources. So there's a lot of, and again, I think Daniel referred to it in town hall presentation a little bit, this kind of tension between negativity and constructive criticism. And that's fine, but some more, going back to the problem sensing exercise in circle 1, that is critical. And because things change and we're scaling and there's lots more people coming in, we need to constantly be, and I mean Circle, IOG as well, need to be constantly listening and constantly questioning ourselves on that. So that's a little diversion, Walter, but because I don't really have anything to say about Bitcoin or Cardano.
I can add a little to the discussion, but it's a terrific and hard question. I don't think we'll have clear answers, but like you, Walter, I first learned about the cryptocurrency space in 2017 and began studying and experimenting in the space and trying to evaluate each of these different platforms. And my own gut feeling was that in the long term, the quality of the governance of one of these networks would be a driver in how strong that network became. And each network has its own kind of personality in how it's being governed, and each has pros and cons as to how that is going. But as a scientist and engineer, I was also very attracted to the fact that IOG, the Cardano Foundation, and Emergo, in terms of the way they designed the community and the network, were really committed to doing fundamental science, doing formal engineering validation, and ultimately taking a long path towards building relationships around the globe to building a very broad community. There's and like maybe some others are describing, there's a very active crypto community here in Boston that I enjoy collaborating with. But Cardano isn't sort of a big priority, I don't think, in the Boston community. But at the same time, I also really respect and appreciate that Charles was upfront, that his vision was really towards developing nations that didn't have existing financial services, and that was really where the need was. And I liked what Daniel said today, that we need to stay focused on the fact that Cardano needs to be a means, not an end. And in particular, you know, for me, the ability to participate in international collaboration has been a big part of what is very positive about the Catalyst community.
See, John, what I meant is that I was astonished about the negative energy which I feel sometimes when I listen to people. And I must say that among Cardano, we are not discussing what is bad about Ethereum or what is bad about Bitcoin or whatsoever. So, and that's what I like. And I see what you say, that, and also the activities of Charles Hoskinson in Africa, I really appreciate very much. You must know that I have family in Africa because one of my daughters is married to a Senegalese, and I have family in Egypt from my wife living in Cairo. And I've been in Africa a couple of times, and I have been teaching about mobile money and M-Pesa and all this stuff. And so I really have a lot of sympathy to what's going on with this African focus of Cardano. So I really think we are contributing something to go into the future and to help those who are unbanked and who need some access to financial resources to help themselves. So this is for me a wonderful thing. But still,
and it doesn't have to be competitive. I mean, on Governance Day a couple of weeks ago, there was you know, a talk with Polkadot and about cross-chain collaboration, and there's plenty to learn from other cryptocurrencies forms of governance. So, I mean, hopefully we can continue to have dialogues like that, not get into kind of tribalism.
exactly.
Yeah.
No, we don't
Well,
need
and-
more tribalism. That's true, correct.
And I know, Matthias, you had your hand up a couple times. If you had something to add.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to add one thing to deal with negativity, right? Sometimes you can make it your asset. In another life, I'm going to share a story really briefly. In another life, I had a martial arts gym in my hometown, Hamburg, Germany. And we practice a very specific style of jiu-jitsu. And that's actually the reason why I came out to Los Angeles in the first place. And in the more traditional world, there was something that was trash talked all the time because we weren't wearing the gi, we were like very focused on mixed martial arts, and it was just not a good time. However, because of so much negative press, and we were the only school in actually all of Germany at that time who would practice officially with the consent of the creator of the system, who's based in LA, we were the only school. So we were flamed a lot on the internet. And quite a few people showed up at our door, at our gym, and said, people were talking so much shit about you, I had to see what this is all about. And those people did their trial classes, signed up, and became national champions using our style that other people trash talk. So, and something similar happens also in Cardano as well. And I do actually not agree with, we don't talk what's wrong with other cryptocurrencies. That is not our focus, but we can also learn from our own failures, because Cardano was rewritten a couple of times because it saw the light of day in 2017. And, you know, I'm very much involved in Plutus, and I entered at M Labs, who work on Liquid, for example. So I know a little bit more what is wrong with Plutus currently, but also how it's developed. And similarly, we look at Ethereum and say, you know what, the accounting model is actually not good for concurrency here. What I think we need to be aware of is that we are our own worst enemy. When, I'm not saying names, but during the test phase of Alonso, there was one of many DEXs that just, Plutus is not perfect. This extended UTXO model is not perfect, but you have to understand it to use this. And if you come from the Ethereum world and now say, okay, well, Cardano is proof of stake, it's more economically friendly, ecologically friendly as well, right? Just let's try to do what Ethereum does on Cardano. Doesn't work, it's a different model. And we have to maybe strengthen our internal ecosystem, and a lot of the challenges speak to that, that we have knowledge exchange. I know Stephen is a big proponent of open source, so am I. I'm an open source user since the mid-90s and contributor. And we have a lot to learn. And I'm not worried about Solana or Dogecoin or Shiba Inu or Bitcoin maximalists or Ethereum folks. I'm not worried about those folks. I'm worried about, supporting new people, as Stephen pointed out, but then also our existing developers who do want to develop on Cardano and do the right things. And more, the community has to increasingly step up, because we see so many more people. Like it's essentially like an exploding startup, and the same people that helped out early adopters or like first employees, for example, right? We can't rely on IAG, Emorgo, and the Cardano Foundation anymore to do all of that work, right? They hopefully, some more than others, work with what they have and to the best of the abilities. And there's pain points, and those are addressed. But it is really a cryptocurrency. It is a financial system for the community and by the community. And one more thing, and then I'm going to shut up, is to your point, unbanking the unbanked. That is also something that drove me to Cardano, right? But as someone, a white person, cisgender male, with a German history, I know very much about, and also as a peacekeeper, I know about going into places and saying, this is what you have to do, top down, doesn't work. So what really attracts me to Cardano is the push to enabling people to help themselves. It's not like me as someone who lives in the US goes into the Africa challenge and says, this is what you have to do. Because I don't know. I know people in Africa, and if they reach out to me, if I can support them, absolutely. We are planning that with win-win, but that's them coming to me and not like, hey, I know about mediation. This is how it works in California. It's great. Let's do it at your place exactly like that, right? We have a conversation, we have a dialogue. And I think that is what's missing in many other ecosystems. And that's truly the power of Cardano. And to what I wrote in the chat, right? I mean, Door disclosed publicly, right? We are a cult, and I mean, cult's so scary.
I think the best proof of, what is the nature of Cardano as a cryptocurrency may be proved in how can we use it for governance. And there are already networks like Eastern Town Hall and others in the network who are already looking towards sustaining themselves outside of Project Catalyst, using Cardano as an economic platform, which is what it was intended for, like the stake pool, delegating to each other's stake pools, or issuing government utility tokens and stuff like that. So there is innovation going on from the community, its early days, in order to govern ourselves as a community, as a sustaining model on the Cardano platform. And that could possibly, if that comes to fruition and develops, and hopefully it does, and that's my emphasis is on infrastructure. Because I think that's, if without a community infrastructure, once we have a community infrastructure, then we can start to build autonomy. And then you can start to rebuff your crypto boys or Lambo or whatever, and say, well, what are you delivering? Where's your governance? At the same time, reaching out to people like Polkadot, who have people who are doing valuable work on alternative governance systems. So I think it's a kind of a mixed picture, really, Walter.
And I am embarrassed to say my battery on my AirPods are dying, and my internal battery is dying as well. So I think I'm going to have to drop off here shortly, or unless there are any last comments or questions to be directed at my way.
I have to drop off at this time too. It's been a really great discussion. Appreciate all the questions.
Yeah, me too. I come away from these meetings and every conversation just really energized and inspired and excited to keep doing more of what we're doing. Somehow need to find a way to remember to carve out time for my family, but
Good luck
It's a
with
cult.
that.
Yeah.
We're your family now.
Exactly. I'll bring the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, great.
Bye,
great,
everyone. Thank
discussion,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Alison and Kerry.
Yeah, I'll have to run soon, but there's any last discussion points, Jeremy or Jory, if you have any other questions or anything for the circle, happy to stay on for a couple more minutes.
So I just say thank you very much. I was really impressed by your openness and your thoughts. And I think for me, it's important to know that people like you are helping to bring Cardano in the right direction, which is not obvious in this huge ship, which is more of a fleet than a ship, and still sometimes you never know where it stops and where it ends. So this is really it's an amazing experiment. So thank you very much, and maybe there will be another after town hall with you guys. I don't know. In some time, then I would be happy to meet you again. And Jeremy, you got my email. If you want to share it, then just do it. Thank you very much. So bye-bye.
Great questions. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Have a great day. Cheers.